What's up, life gamers? Is your past weighing you down? Mine used to weigh me down a lot. I spent a good amount of time thinking about the past. I had a lot of regrets. I would dwell on the guilt and the shame and the wrong decisions that my younger self had made. And this flooded my subconscious with negativity. Spent a lot of time playing the what if game. What if I hadn't been late to that one call time? What if I hadn't stayed so long in that toxic relationship? What if I had come up with that $1 million idea instead of that guy? So waste of time. I would hate myself for the decisions that I could no longer change. And I would spend all my time ruminating on this in my head. Why? Because I couldn't let go of the past. Ann Landers said, hanging on to resentment is letting someone you despise live rent-free in your head. When we dwell on the past, we needlessly burden ourselves. So we need to let go of it. So let's break down what that actually means in 4 steps. Forgive yourself. Guilt and shame cannot exist in the same space as forgiveness. Now, if forgiveness doesn't come easy to you, that might be because you don't believe you actually deserve to be forgiven. If that's the case, I want you to remember that whatever we are constantly changing beings. Who you are today is not dictated in any way by who you were in the past. You're literally not the same person that you were when you experienced whatever it is that you can't let go. What's more, right now, you can change yourself and you can demand to be the kind of person who deserves the forgiveness that you're denying yourself. Today, tell yourself you deserve it and start the forgiveness process. Forgiveness, like any other life skill, is gonna take practice. Don't feel bad if it doesn't come immediately or if it doesn't feel easy. You'll get there. Step number 2, learn the lessons. So the funny thing about life is that literally every experience we ever have has at least one, if not several lessons we can learn from it. Brand new experiences or experiences where we failed, they actually tend to have more lessons than other kinds of experiences. Now, think about that time that you've been dwelling on and strip the lessons out of it. What could you learn from that time now that you have some distance and some perspective? Take your time while you're thinking about these lessons, because there might be, it's like a Where's Waldo book. Like, you could look for a while. Take your time. When you find them, try to distill them down into 1 or 2 sentences. Something that you can quickly reference that will remind you of the larger, more nuanced lesson that you learned. An example of a lesson I've learned from one of my past experiences: I don't always have to say yes. I will repeat that phrase, I don't always have to say yes, often to myself, to train my brain to learn the lesson, to get it from a thing that I say to a thing that is stuck in here that I believe. Step 3, shuck the rest. Okay, so once you've extinguished the guilt from the experience with forgiveness, and you've learned the lessons from the experience, now stop thinking about the incident. I'm not saying erase it from your brain in some kind of sci-fi movie kind of way. I mean, whenever you catch yourself thinking about it, stop that train of thought immediately. The goal is to turn the memory of this experience into one of those memories that you could access if you wanted to, but you gotta reach for it. It's not easy to access, because right now, because you're dwelling on it, it's right here in the forefront. We want to push that back by thinking about it less and less. Some people are afraid of this part of the process because they don't want to let go of the memory entirely. And look, here's the deal. If you want to record it, like speak it into a voice recorder or type it out or write it in a journal so that you have a written account of it somewhere, something like that, that's fine. As long as you stop thinking about it after you do that, you'll get there. So like forgiveness, stopping your brain from thinking about a thought that it's thought over and over and over and dwelled on, it might not happen right away. It's going to take some practice. It's going to take some time. So practice. It's worth it. A friend of mine, she audibly says the word no, like out loud, whenever she catches herself dwelling on a thought or a memory that she knows is hurting her. The way I like to do it is simply shift my focus to something else. If I catch myself thinking about that time that I regret, what am I going to think about instead? Maybe that movie that I just saw, maybe a book that I just read, maybe some friends that I should hang out with, a work thing, something that's pleasant to think about, so it's going to be easier for my brain to follow that rather than to merely stop thinking about this other thing. After you practice this for a while, like everything else, it's going to get faster, you're going to get better at it, and it's going to get to a point where your brain can do it automatically. 4th and last step, aim to evolve. Now that you've forgiven yourself, now that you have learned the lessons, and now that you've started to train your brain to not think about that anymore or much, much less, now it's time to go be the person who's learned those lessons and has learned how to forgive themselves. In other words, take what you learned and apply it to the next situation so that you don't repeat the same kinds of mistakes you've made before. You may fail along the way. Fine. Start the process over every time. Learn from that failure. Fail, learn, move it along. This 4-step process isn't necessarily easy. I don't have easy answers, but I can tell you that it's within your power to do it. Oh, and here's another thing. You don't have to wait for an experience, a time in your life to become a full-on regret in order to start this process. The moment that you realize you did something that could potentially become a regret that you dwell on, go through the process immediately for that memory. Treat it the same way. Forgive yourself, learn the lesson, forget the rest, go be better. The more you do this whole process, just like the individual components, you'll get better at it, you'll get faster at it. So evict that person that you despise who's living in your head, get them out of there. If you have something that you're dwelling on, tell me about it in the comments. What are you stuck with? What is something that you can do to help forgive yourself and move on from it? And if you have any questions or requests for video topics, please let me know in those comments below. I'm here to help. To schedule a free 15-minute private coaching session with me via phone or video chat, just email me at levelupandcreate@gmail.com. My website and all my social media links are in the description. Keep leveling up.